Hey everyone, set 8 is coming out very soon, as well as the master deck set. So like always, we're going to take a look at the Japanese side, look at confirmed results, and then kind of bring them to the English side so we know where to start off with, since we're behind in terms of set releases. Now, not every deck in set 8 is good. There are some really good ones like Bling Demire, but then there's some really non-performing ones. So I won't have deck lists for those. Basically, it's just like Werble and Argo Siren, right? But I'm sure some people are cooking stuff up with those. But also, what will be interesting in this meta that we're having in English is that in Japan we had a lot of collab sets that define the metagame, and in English we don't. And those collab decks would take up a lot of third deck slot choices in teams, and we are in Springfest right now. I mean Summerfest, so we are in a teams format. And while we have a format right now, we haven't been announced like any ban list or anything where we have a dominant Bavsagra, we have a dominant Elite Gleamer. Not everyone wants to play Elite Gleamer. So we have a really strong deck that everyone probably picks in their team, which is Bavsagra. But then you might have like 1 or 2 slots that you want open, and without those collab decks that are really, really good and overstated, some of these other third decks might be a good choice. So I think Bling Demire, great choice if you like playing that kind of play style. But then, like other things like Kyrie, even Magnolia might be a good choice. So a lot of things are opening up, right? So we're going to get started. We're going to take a quick look at these decks. Unfortunately, Bushiroad, as of this time, hasn't updated the English deck log, so I'm just using the Japanese deck log, which is good for me, because I don't have to do as much work as I usually do, which is translate all these into English. So first off, we have the star of the set 8, which is Bling Demire. A lot of... there were a decent amount of tops, I guess. A lot of play a really, really popular deck, all right? And this is from the team that came first place at Daivangasai, just before Festival Collection got released. It's a pretty good Bling Demire deck, right? Because it came first. I think, like, with the triggers, you're pretty much set that you have to run fronts because you're Bling Demire, you don't want to deck out. So fronts, the heals are up to you. The crits, you know, I think running 4 effect crits is very, very important. I know a lot of people in my previous preliminary discussion, right? You guys are memeing that I said that Bling Demire was a very counterblast light deck. Now, I'm going to be very, very frank with you guys. You don't need to use your counterblast every time you play down a card that has counterblast. I'm going to, like, with Bling Demire, you have to realize a lot of these the biggest cards in your deck, right? Your Elaborate Wizard, new card. It's not loading because I'm in Australia, but Elaborate Wizard, they all have 2 effects. One of them is a decent effect that doesn't require CB, and another one is another decent effect that does require CB. And you have 3 specific cards that have this specific combination, which is Elaborate Wizard. You have the Veildrop Dragon as well, and then you have Zamoog. Now, all 3 of these cards, you have to understand, you just have to know when to use your CB and when not to, because the good thing about Bling Demire is that your Vanguard skill doesn't require any CB, so you're always going to be able to use that Vanguard skill, except maybe Nexus. Nexus can make it a bit harder because you have to use his bind skill in the main phase. So if you don't have enough soul, then you're screwed. But that is something they have to play around with, right? But keep in mind, your strongest cards, your strongest support cards, their game-winning plays, or very strong like finisher plays don't require CB as well, right? So Moog's first skill, CB1 to compress your deck and draw a card, that's a pretty good skill, right? But the game-winning one is the Energy Blast 3 to get that crit, right? That kind of makes all your numbers lethal and very, very annoying to guard, or you get like early crits, kind of push your opponent to hide. I mean, this is the game-winning play. That doesn't require CB, yeah? Veildrop, right? Veildrop. Your game-winning power is the power pump from this, the insane power pump that makes your columns unguardable. The first card is nice. Getting CB1 for an advantage is pretty in cost, right? CB1 to get a +1, that's usually how it is. With a plus 10k, sometimes you're hitting like plus 20, 30k. That's insane power. That's what's winning you the games, right? So just keep in mind, you have to learn when to use a CB and when not to screw up. Elaborate Wizard's different. The first skill is already really good. Compress your deck, you know, kind of like so you can trigger more, right? But the second one lets you grab PGs or grab specific cards in your soul, right? So it can be PGs. It can be that Nexus that you're missing and you soul charge earlier in the game, but it's not a skill that you always want to use. If you don't have any good cards in your assault, you probably don't have to use it. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. The only thing that like you really CB a lot for is your Alchemist, but that's why he's only run at 2. I think it's pretty interesting. Previously, you'd run Alchemist at high copies, but after playing this deck a lot, you don't really need that many Alchemists. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you're playing a 3-attack game. But you can always, again, with the Wizard now, you can always kind of salvage it from the weird places that it goes to. And then like that can kind of help in a different kind of finish where you're making like multi-attacks rather than just like 3 big columns. So it's a deck that you have to like understand that your ride line will screw you at some times, but then you also have a pretty weirdly consistent game plan in that you can always get your PGs no matter where they go. And then for the Regulus piece, they're running the new Regulus piece from the Djel starter deck. This one lets you just call things from the drop zone, which is okay. Like it's okay, but you can also run the Caliban, the Excalibur one, where it lets you draw 2 or counter charge with a soul. So I think both of them are fine. I personally like the other one more, but this will let you access cards that you previously missed out. So overall, I think this deck's pretty good. I think one thing you just have to do is you have to run Tizcars. Tizcars are very, very important. If you don't, you're crazy. There's another build out there that is not running some of these cards and replacing them with Filias to play a more aggressive playstyle. I think that's fine too. I think you have to find what kind of playstyle you like. The deck Bling the Mind is actually a deck in standard that can be quite malleable compared to a lot of standard. You have to put 4x of everything and you have 3 flex slots, right? There's a few ways to build this deck, which is actually pretty interesting, except for the ride line. I hate the ride line. If you don't draw any cards from this ride line, you just don't have a game. So I don't know, like you either love it or hate it, right? The OT that you are running is the red OT. So this is one of those. Is it Korokoro? Yeah, one of the Korokoro. Actually, we have that, so I don't have to tell you what this is. Okay, you can actually run this one, or you should be able to. So yeah, pretty good deck. I think probably the best deck coming out of this set, and that's why I've kind of talked about it, because I actually had to play test this deck a lot. I had to play it a lot in case I had to play it in Japan, which I didn't. I didn't have to. I got to play Berry. The next deck we have is Magnolia. So this is actually rated quite highly in some circles, although the only real top it got is a top 32 at Daivangasai. It did have another one that topped at a major event, but that was an Elder build. So you can actually build the grade 4 version of this and it'd be fine too. But this is just your good old Sylvan Beast build. Your new Magnolia lets you just do a lot of multi-attacks, which is great. You get the triple drive. So you're basically like an Elder, but on grade 2. Because your different cards let you countercharge. This effect is pretty much free. So you have spare CB to go around, which is why Gnosla is pretty good. They are running 4x of this PR, so you're gonna have to find this. It is out in English though. I've double checked. This is out in English. It is your Energy Blast outlet as well, so it is pretty important. But yeah, this is Gnosla makes the big columns, and then you run a mix of new and old Sylvan Beasts, and then they're just running the Mythiarch habitats as like some of the orders to let you, I guess, search and push. So personally, didn't really play too much of Magnolia, but it did at least do something compared to the other decks out there. So the next one I'm picking is the Kyrie. So this one's actually pretty cool. The reason why I picked this is a Daivangasai top 32, by the way, is that this one is not running any Yui cards. So for all the poor people out there, this is a slightly cheaper deck, right? You have one generic that you don't need to get. In fact, the only generic you're going to need to get is the Energy Cycler and the Fran set, which is unfortunately still, these two are still very, very expensive. And also, actually, I don't think the shield is that expensive. The Persona shield is that expensive. The good thing about Kyrie is that you can push early, and then Kyrie's own skill bounces a bunch of stuff anyway. So you can refund your hand, right? Your hand can be kind of fake though, but it is what it is. Life's like that, right? This comboing Franchette, you can kind of bounce should be able to bounce up onto your front rows, so they can't attack into it, and you lose important pieces. Your other two cards are just cards that restand. So this one restands to make you get 5 attacks. And then you have a bunch of orders that you can play. So always, you know, the Choir Order, lets you big shields. You have your Twin Cast. And you also have the... Is this the Perfume Order? Is it Perfume? This gives your mermaids boost in the back row, so you can boost with your grade 2. That's why there's like such little grade 1 count here. And then you can also Soul Blast to give one of your mermaid units plus 5k. So that can work out pretty good. The ride line they're running is just the Sedna Aqua ride line. But I feel like you can kind of tweak these around a bit. You know, if you really hate this ride line, you can still run the Ballista ride line. Always works. You can even run the Astius one, though I just think overall the Astius one's like just pretty outclassed already. You can just run like more Yuikas to make it a more traditional build. If you run Yuikas, you can basically just slam ASAP like a full field and then just bounce everything back and then do it like continuously. I feel like this one won't be able to do that just because you won't have like the Yuikas. But you do have if you draw like one of your Fran sets, you can at least put on some aggression and still kind of bounce specific cards back to. This one just won't have like the grade 1s to be able to boost and make the columns big, I feel like. And then you'll have situations like in when you have the Yuikas, you can probably commit like less good cards, like, you know, you can maybe throw down a PG to kind of at least attack it and then bounce it back, right? So I feel like, you know, this version will lack that early game aggression, which I think is very, very important for Yuika. But this deck did top, right? But I think you can still kind of play around with the ratios. If you have the Yuikas, you can play around with that. If you don't have it, hey, here's one without a Yuika. And then you can kind of go from there, right? Remember, these aren't the end builds. You can play these decks differently. This is just the start for you, yeah? Next up is Youthberg. Youthberg is a bit sad, right? There is a build from Singapore that is very, very weird, which is why I did not choose that one. This one is a bit more traditional. It is running one copy of Tempest, and like honestly, Youthberg was kind of underperforming in set 8. I feel like the best Youthberg builds as well were just going back to Full Blast. So, I mean, if you have old Full Blast, you can just play that, and I think you'll be fine. Just tweak it a bit. But this is probably the most normal version of the deck that you will see. Yeah, and the Singapore one, there is a Singapore one. Just VG Paradox it. You will find one that isn't running Carinos. Which, if you feel like that's you, then go for it, because you do need to high roll a bit, I feel like, with Youthberg in order to do well. This one, I'm a boring guy. It's your boring Ketapile Youthberg with like one-off tech here. And that's kind of it, right? It works. Sometimes. It works sometimes, but if you're a Youthberg fan, here you go. This also did top 32, I think, Daivangasai, yeah? Surprisingly, we have a Hound Riser as well. Hound Riser did get one new card in set 8, and that was Hinami, but this guy's only running one of it, so maybe it's not too significant. Apart from that, you've basically got the core of the old build. You just run a bunch of dogs, and you're pretty much good to go. This, I guess, this is a new set 8 dog as well. But again, he's only running one of this too. So yeah, it's pretty much your old build, not changed that much, and that's pretty much it. This is a Bracing Angel Ladder. This is from Chiho Cup Takasaki as well. I think this came 8th actually, so it actually didn't do too bad. But yeah, you just play the fundamentals with these decks. Go fast, go hard. You have Surgons, and you can search out Surgons, which is good. And yeah, just rush. I think most decks can win if they rush or go first. So this is one of those decks. Yep. Now onto the master deck sets, we have like Leonor. So Leonor, I think people have been hyping up quite a lot. I saw quite a few Leonors being played in Daivangasai, surprisingly. This one was one that came top 32 in Daivangasai. And the main buff that the deck got was you got the new grade 1 order. It makes one of your regards really fat. It basically gets 5k for each of your grade 1 or less cards on the field. So look, make one thing fat, put out your Rosarium Fairies, go ham, make big columns, and life is good, right? It is also running a bunch of these new Leonor specific energy cyclers that also buff the power by 20. Actually, this also supports Magnolia, so there's not Leonor specific, but yeah, you can buff power and then just make things really, really big. It is running a Vivace build, so not yet. People haven't transitioned into the mask build that we saw recently, but I think recently we've been seeing the mask build and the Vivace build. So both are still around. This one you can literally just get from the trial deck. A lot of this just comes from the trial deck. I guess you can't get like the Fire Regulus and the Mythiarch Habitat. But for things like, you know, the Philanders also come from the trial deck. If I recall correctly, I think it did, right? Unless it was from Naira. No, it was from this trial deck. It came from this trial deck. I guess you don't have the Alvinas, but this one only runs 2 Alvinas, so it's slightly more budget. But yeah, pretty decent deck. A lot of players played it. Of course, people do find it very popular. This one is running the Zorga ride line as well, so I guess it kind of works decently with just your Mythiarch Habitats, able to kind of push on an early game. You can probably even rush with this deck now that you have this order that can be played at grade 1. So you can either choose to develop your field, or just play, or just pump up something and just kind of push damage so that you can kind of get a quick win with this deck. It's all about going fast nowadays, right? And then the last deck we're going to take a look at is the Djel deck. So this also got a master deck set. Everyone should be buying the Djel deck set. Simply because you do get that really strong Regulus piece that everyone is running. You get this one. Yeah, you get this Regulus piece. But yeah, otherwise, the deck itself is pretty complete, right? Like, you're always going to play the grade 4. You have your Rockagur. Like, well, this person's only running 1 Rockagur. But you also have the new Restander, which is very, very good. It makes your deck much more consistent. And this one, like, has your Energy Blast outlet there too. You can also run Tizcars, and then you still run the other Restander too. So overall, the deck is kind of similar to what it was before. If you already have the deck as well, you're pretty much good to go just with a few upgrades. And yeah, I think this one was a top cut at Chiho Cup Takasaki, I think. It made top 8, so did all right. And yeah, if you're looking for a third deck, I think all the decks that we saw today are pretty good. Now, I will put a link to all these decks in the description below. They will be in Japanese, unfortunately, because English hasn't updated. But if you're looking for a deck and a good starting point, I think these are good places to go for, especially if you just got the starting off this the trial deck, the master deck sets, or if you're just kind of getting the new ride lines from the new set 8, getting ready for Springfest. Right? Have fun testing. See you all next time. Bye bye.